25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Life is a mystery. All right, I'll start with a statement that's it's hard to debate that one. Life is a mystery. It's kind of that's a nice, safe one, right? Nobody's going to debate that. Mm-hmm. Everything else we say is probably debatable. Do you know when I? Gosh, I don't know where to start with this one. I have so many places I could start from. I was watching a video maybe about a year ago, and it showed this. It was a story about this young boy who seemed to be recalling a previous life. And he was naming people and places, and his mother just said, you know what, let's go to this place. So they flew to this island. I think it was in Iceland, or I feel like it was somewhere in the northern Europe somewhere. Anyway, they went to this, they were driving down this road, and he was looking out the window, and he finally saw the house that he remembered. And so, in other words, long story short, here was a child who remembered a past life and was kind of looking for the dog he had and the people who lived there, and the people who lived there that he remembered apparently didn't live there anymore. And this is up to you whether you decide that you think this is just all fairy tale or real true story. I believe it happens. I don't think it contradicts the Bible either, by the way. And I'm not trying to tell you what to believe. I just think so. I think... And even Abraham Lincoln said something like this, that how could it be that God would create us only to live a blink of an eye? You know, it would only make sense that we would progress and move on and maybe learn from different lives. And we've had Eastern culture guys on. We had one last week, right? The guy from Japan?
Yes.
He was talking about Buddhism, and he was talking about that. So it is an interesting thing. Let's talk about it at length with a guest. We have Sharon Guskin on the phone. She is a writer and producer of award-winning documentary films, including Stolen and On Meditation. She's worked at a refugee camp in Thailand. Oh, my goodness. She's served as a volunteer with hospice. And she's written a book called The Forgetting Time, a novel about the power of love, reincarnation, and motherhood. I don't have the book, but I've been reading all the notes that we've been sent about it. Sharon, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll say hello to Brooklyn for me. Are you a mom by chance?
I am. I have two boys right now, 12 and 14.
Okay, 12 and 14. So when they were little, did they give you any indication that maybe they lived once before?
You know, I mean, my kids never said any of the things like these kids in the extraordinary cases that you're referring to have said. I mean, I've certainly, since I wrote this novel kind of based on these cases, so many people have come up to me with things their kids have said that were really strange. I mean, but the thing about it, in a way, is that no, they didn't say anything kind of weird. They didn't say, you know, oh, I used to be in World War II, you know, as someone told me their son said.
Right.
They just wrote me. There's like my son always used to say he was in World War II when he had 5 kids, you know.
Yeah.
But my kids didn't. But they're very different, you know. And you think about it. Well, why? Why is one afraid of this and one likes this?
Right.
You know, why? Same parents, same upbringing.
Yeah. And I think the same thing. And what's with talent? How is it that one person seems to be born with a natural ability to draw or to whatever, and another child is not? You know, it is. I think you're right on target. When Heather first called me about you. Heather is your publicist, by the way. I mean, I know you know, but for the listeners. Okay, so when Heather first called me, I told her a story, and can I share it with you, if you don't mind?
Oh, absolutely. I love hearing stories.
All right, now, the person I'm going to tell you about is my nephew. He's living upstate New York, so I doubt that he can hear me. And he's probably getting close to being 40 years old by now, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. But when he was a little boy, he was my sister's child. My sister has also passed away since then, by the way. But she's an American. My sister was American. We're all American. Okay. So when he was a little boy, he referred to his private parts as his bobo. And we all thought that was cute. Nobody ever told him it was called a bobo. That's just what he called it. Then one day I was reading Rolling Stone magazine, and it was this British recording, rock and roll star or something like that. And he's referring to his bobo. Same thing, same private part, okay? And I thought, now isn't that weird? Now, why would a child, 1-year-old or whatever, however old he was, I mean, why would he do that? Unless maybe, I don't know, I thought maybe he's reincarnated, maybe he used to be British, I don't know. It was one of those weird moments where I just wondered, you don't have any real proof.
Right. Well, I mean, the interesting thing is that that's what these guys, these professors at University of Virginia, is they're trying to find proof. And as you said, it's very difficult. But what they're trying to do is sort of collect so much data about things that these children said, that when they were very little, that where they lived, how they died, what their parents' names were, what kind of incense they sold. And then when they find the people that the kids seem to remember being, they'll try to corroborate it, and they'll take the kids to these villages and see, does the kid name anybody, identify anything? And then often they do. And so situations like this, there's actually a word for what you're talking about. It's called, I think, xenoglossy, and it's basically when language comes through and all of a sudden you've got a kid using dialect from a place that's far from, where they're from.
Yeah.
Or, in some cases you had these kids who were growing up in Malaysia, but from the time they could talk, they were really identified with Japanese things, wanted Japanese food, knew Japanese words, and they were thinking, they were possibly, POWs who had been Japanese and died, So anyway, I know it sounds pretty out there, but like if once you start looking at the real cases, I don't know. My novelist imagination just about exploded when I started reading about this stuff.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, it's a novel, so I guess that's where I wanted to go with my next question is, are you in the novel exploring this? Are you just using it as a backdrop? Do you yourself believe that reincarnation? I mean, nobody can say for sure, but I mean, does the novel explore reincarnation, I guess?
It's a good question. I mean, I started out, as I said, I stumbled across this research. I thought, this is incredible. What a good story that would be. And so I started out writing it just because I thinking about, the story is about basically the single mom whose 4-year-old son keeps asking for his other mother. I want my other mother. When am I going to see my other mother? And It causes all these troubles for him at home and at school, and his behavior is odd, and he has weird phobias. And so finally this woman who's pretty skeptical and not a woo-woo chick at all ends up, meeting up with a professor who's inspired by the real person and just kind of taking this journey to try to help her son. So, and along the way, I do have real cases interspersed with the story itself, and I think, on the one hand, it's a novel. You don't need to believe in anything to read it. And I'm a novelist. I'm not trying to convince anyone what happens when you die. But I think, for me anyway, just holding your mind open to the possibility, like, what if this is true? What does it mean if it's true? Does it mean anything to me? That sort of struck me. And after doing all this research, honestly, and meeting Dr. Tucker at University of Virginia, who's like the least crackpotty guy you will ever meet. Like, he's so conscientious, he would almost be boring if he weren't talking about kids who remember past lives. I kind of came around to think, I guess I believe this. But that is not where I started out,
Interesting.
I really enjoy the fact that you have your two main characters, their age is so different between the child and the gentleman at the end of his life. I just thought that was a fabulous way to present this.
Oh, thank you. It's funny. Sometimes, people, you always think it's going to be more of a stretch to write people of different ages and different from you. But in this book, for some reason, I found the biggest stretch writing the mom in Brooklyn. And the people of the different ages and different sort of backgrounds were just, they kind of arose more naturally for some reason. So,
do you know, in religion, in Christianity especially, we're taught that we are forgiven, and I've often wondered if forgiven means the blessing of forgetting. In other words, how do I forgive myself unless I simply can forget whatever bad things I've done? And maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe, and your book is called The Forgetting Time, so I wanted to kind of explore the title a little bit. Let's take a little break. What a fascinating conversation. Sharon Guskin is on the phone up in Brooklyn. The book is a novel. It's called The Forgetting Time, but it really brings up some interesting questions. It is a novel about the power of love, reincarnation, and motherhood. We'll take a break and be right back.
Greetings, good citizens. Join me, Queen Eleanor, at the 31st Annual Hogtown Medieval Fair, January 28th and 29th and February 3rd, 4th and 5th at the Alachua County Fairgrounds. Join the colourful cast of characters on the streets of Hogtown, where you'll find medieval merriment for the whole family. Cheer on royal knights as they joust for their lady's honour. Watch a living chess match or enjoy performances by gypsy dancers and magicians. Then wander through the marketplace where hundreds of artisans sell their medieval wares. Come one, come all to the Hogtown Medieval Fair.
If you or a loved one is suffering with knee, shoulder, neck or back pain, plantar fasciitis, peripheral neuropathy, and even tennis elbow, and would like to learn about how there are treatments that may benefit you, go to drjuanyordan.com, then listen in on the first and third Thursday at 10 a.m. and hear from health professionals doing these treatments and patients who have benefited from them. First and third Thursdays, 10 a.m. Next Generation MD, right here on The Source.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
Palm Garden wants to get to the heart of the matter. If you've been in the hospital as a cardiac patient, maybe you have a pacemaker or congestive heart failure or an arrhythmia, or perhaps you're a heart bypass patient, then consider Palm Garden as your rehab choice. With proven outcomes second to none, Palm Garden fixes broken hearts. Call today at 854-6262. That's 854-6262.
Hey, this is Matt Wilkerson from Verizon. You work all day, right? So why would you want to spend your night out shopping for that new phone? Well, Marion County, let me and Verizon help you out. I can deliver to your home or office, saving you precious time. Phone, tablets, internet, home phones, even accessories. Whatever you need, we will deliver free of charge. Call me at the store, 352-528-0020. That's 528-0020.
12 minutes before 10 o'clock, it's 60 degrees. Temperature's climbing to 80 today, and looks like a nice night, by the way, for First Friday Art Walk. If you're downtown Ocala, we would love to see you. Robin and I are participating in an event down there on Fort King, and of course, the whole event has lots of people participating. So go downtown, take a stroll around, get some of the food that they're offering and all that stuff. Right now, Sharon Guskin is bringing an interesting topic to the show, which is reincarnation. Her book is a novel called The Forgetting Time, and in the novel, by the way, she's woven into the story, I guess, some nonfiction elements as well that we kind of just touched on that. So, Sharon, thank you for waiting through the break. The book is called The Forgetting Time. Tell me about that. Where does the title come from?
Well, it has a number of meanings. Most of the children in these real cases, the large majority of them forget whatever they seem to be remembering about past lives by the time they're 5 or 6. Perhaps because they're just really involved in their lives and go to school, or maybe it's just somehow they naturally forget. So that kind of refers to the forgetting time. There's also a character in the book who has a form of aphasia where he's forgetting words, and so it sort of refers to him as well. He's losing language. And then ultimately, it's kind of a question for all of us, which, if this is true, and who knows, but if it is, if this could be true, then maybe we all had, past lives and we've forgotten them. So if you look at it that way, then maybe we're all in a forgetting time.
Yeah,
which I just think, I just think it's fun to consider. I'm a novelist. I'm not telling anyone what to believe about anything.
Right.
But I think just holding these ideas in your mind and saying, well, what do I think, and does it change the way I live if I think maybe I'm going to come back again? I think those are interesting ideas to explore.
I have a question, kind of more of a rudimentary rather than a speculative. It's about what you do. I'm just curious if when you're researching to do a book like this, whether it's a novel or even if you had chosen to go completely nonfiction, that compared to making a documentary, we're always under the impression that a book will hold a lot more information than any documentary or any film will. But at the same time, there's a different vibe, or that's kind of a hippie word, isn't it? But you know what I mean? That comes out of a film that you walk out of a theater kind of a buzzing with, oh, wow, imagine if that really happened, kind of a feeling. So are you ever, in exploring this topic, have you ever thought about doing this as a documentary, or is that in the works?
I did talk to some filmmaker friends of mine who were kind of interested. I think at the beginning you referenced a little short video that was on, I think it was on the BBC, and you're right, it was Dr. Stevenson, who's the University of Virginia psychiatrist, I think, investigating a little boy who remembered being in a Scottish Isle or something. So there have been little pieces, but and there's a production company thinking about making a fiction miniseries about this for TV, which would be fun. But for me, I guess the focus is, I love books. And also, when you go into a documentary, pretty much you're in there and you're going to watch it till the end. But with a novel, these days, to be honest, people put it down. And I had to really think, I had to jettison a lot of stuff, frankly, because I didn't want people to put the book down. I wanted them to get to the end. I wanted them to feel engaged with it. And so, a couple times I went through multiple drafts, and I had all this wonderful stuff and research, but I just had to get rid of it in order for people to, because people just kept telling me that they were stopping at various points. And now, sometimes I hear from people, they're like, oh, I finished your book in 4 hours, I couldn't put it down. And I sort of think, okay, great, I wrote it in 6 years. But anyway.
You had brought up religion during the break, and you had some astute observations about that.
Well, I just think it's interesting. I have heard and read that it isn't, certainly, Buddhists believe in reincarnation, Hindus, but there's also been a history of belief in reincarnation among the early Christians, Origen. In some Jewish prayers, there's a prayer that many people have every night that's sort of asking for forgiveness for their sins from this life or before, and somebody even mentioned a part from the Bible in which Jesus asked something to the extent of, who sinned, the child or his parents, that he was born blind? And someone said, well, how could someone be born blind due to some sins? Does that imply something happened before? And again, I'm not a theologian, so I can stay away from it all, but I just think it's interesting, and I think there's an amazing American case, this kid who remembered being a World War II fighter pilot, and he named.
I saw this, yeah.
Yeah, he named the Natoma Bay, which is a real aircraft carrier, and the people on it, and he had all of this information about at the age of 2, about the kind of planes that flew off of it. And his dad was quite religious, Louisiana, Baptist, and he became obsessed with the story, trying to prove his kid wrong. And in the end, the kid convinced him, But he didn't. I don't think they didn't really ever feel that this meant abandoning their faith. It was just kind of accepting that things are mysterious, as you started out by saying, Do
you know, I want to share something with you, and this is maybe going to make you think I'm a real nutcase, but I worked for 3 years at an assisted living facility, and in the facility there was an area called memory support. It was for people with dementia, and I was talking to a lady one time, and she was telling me about visiting her new home that she was moving to. And so I'm thinking, in her imagination, she's moving to a new home. But the more she described it, she was talking about a new body, a new human body. and so I don't know.
Wow.
I know, and so I wondered. Okay, I know this is going to sound way out of left field, and I'm not saying I know anything because I don't know anything, but I wondered if like when you're building a house, if you know a house is being built, you don't move out of the one you're in until the other one is finished, but you still go to it every once in a while just to see how the progress is going, right? So you see where I'm going with this, right? And
I do. I mean, fascinating,
And I wondered if that's what she was doing. I wondered if she was getting close to the end of her life, and she was kind of drifting over to, I don't know, to the mother-to-be. I don't know.
Well, actually, it's interesting because in a lot of sort of indigenous cultures, they have something called announcing dreams, in which when people are and they actually have, so when people are dying here, let me back up a little bit. So people will actually tell their relatives in dreams, I'm going to be reborn as your niece. I'm going to be reborn as your grandkid.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes they'll mark the body of the dying person and then look in the children that are born to see if there's any indication, is there some little birthmark or something? Because one of the most fascinating and, again, out there parts of the research, Dr. Stevenson at University of Virginia wrote this whole book about birthmarks and birth defects, and he tried to map and saw some correlation between the modes of death of people and then the bodies of the people who were reborn, from that, the new person. And so, there is in the culture, in these other cultures, this idea of, maybe you are your own grandpa. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes because I know you have to talk to a lot of us radio nuts all day long. I'm just curious what you have to put up with. The book is called The Forgetting Time. It is such a fascinating idea, and the idea that you've created a novel, written a novel, and also have incorporated some nonfiction elements really intrigues me. Sharon, how do we get the book? Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's theforgettingtime.com. And it's also everywhere that books are sold. It comes out in paperback on Tuesday, but you can download it immediately from, Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of the places, and also get the hardcover at any moment. So it's all around, and we actually we're it's unbelievably lucky, and this is just another weird factor about the book, but we sold it in 18 countries. So now I'm getting copies from Poland and stuff coming in the mail. So it's I think the interest in the topic is pretty universal these days. Because it's just fascinating. Although I have to say, and it's also just hopefully a good read, hopefully a moving read. You don't have to believe in anything particular to enjoy it. And at some level, you could think of the whole thing, reincarnation itself, as a metaphor for human connection. There's a Buddhist saying or belief that I stumbled across at one point that sort of was that we've all been reborn so many times that every single person was once our mother. Everybody was our mother. Which I thought was amazing. Wow. It's just amazing to think about. And so I just loved that, and I love that idea of thinking of other people as our relatives from before, or to come. And I think all religions kind of carry that idea that we're connected in these deep ways,
Wow, what a fascinating topic. And you're so energetic. I love your energy too, Sharon.
Thank you.
So the website was theforgettingtime.com. I went to the website, by the way. I'm trying to decide whether I want the Audible book or the actual book too.
People really like the Audible book, actually. If you like Audible books, it won some prize, and the actors are amazing. Actually, my kids, the thing that I think that impressed my kids most is that the woman who is the voiceover artist, who's wonderful, but she also happens to be the person who is Siri on
oh, really?
phone.
Nice.
She knows everything then.
Nice.
Right. So my kids were like, wow,
She's
Siri read
awesome.
your book. book. But she doesn't sound like Siri on the book. But, you can get the Audible if that's what you like, or any of the versions.
Sharon, thank you. We're absolutely out of time, but thank you so much for being on there. What a fun interview.
Okay, thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. All right, we will be right back. This is WOCA.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. It's the president's first job report since taking office, and it shows President Trump inherited a robust job market with 227,000 jobs added.
Much more than expected. The street was looking for about 175,000 jobs in January. The unemployment rate ticked up, however, to 4.8%.
Peter Barnes with the Fox Business Network.
Hourly wages, however, a disappointing number, up just 0.1%, 3 cents to $26.